divine masculine and feminine darlings. This is the Seraphim Gem Gypsy, SeraFae Indigo Empress, and Shiloh Horizon. I don't plan to be here for too long, but I did just wake up with some dream prophecy. And a song. Hi, babies.
Old bitch, new bitch, young bitch, rude bitch, call me what you want, I'ma still be a cool bitch. Rough shit, tough shit, nobody wants to fuck with bad bitches like me. Minding my own business, but you still got opinions. You say that I'm so brilliant when I do my thing. Just change a little bit. You can put me in a market. This ain't even your department. I'm just so sick of all these men stuck in 1982, trying to mold me into dollars, telling me what I should do. Cause I'm a old bitch, rude bitch, young bitch, rude bitch. Call me what you want, I'ma still be a cool bitch. Nobody wants to fuck with bad bitches like me. Bad bitches like me. You wanna tone me down, maybe even change my sound. Young bitch, rude bitch, tell me what you want, I'ma still be a cool bitch. Nobody wants to fuck with.
You don't have to like it, honey, but it's time to get behind it, boy. Bad bitches like me. Bad bitches like me. You don't have to like it, honey, but it's time to get behind it, boy. I'm a bad bitch, but only I can say it. I'll just be myself. Everybody quit complaining. 422. Cause I'm an... Heard that. Cause I'm a whoa bitch, new bitch. Young bitch, rude bitch, call me what you want, I'ma still be a cool bitch. Rough shit, tough shit, nobody wants to fuck with a bad bitches like me. Okay. Hi, baby kitty kitty. Hi, baby kitty kitty. What are you doing, buddy? Going to breakfast? Come on, snack. I'm picking up the karmic star. Panicking right now. Really panicking. Somebody's worried about court. I heard that. Cause I know you've been planning and preparing. So it sounds like somebody who's been targeting light workers is spooked because they know not that they're going to be targeted back per se, but yeah, their karma is coming back. Their consequences for doing so are falling back upon them, and they typically often perceive that as some kind of attack or retaliation, right? They feel like people's defense against their attacks is an attack on them. They feel attacked when people don't let them attack others, right? The karmics feel attacked when light workers do not let them attack the light workers or others. And I think that's insane. You should not feel attacked just because someone does not let you attack them. That is not an attack on you. That's a defense against your attack, and you're delusional. What's wrong with you? Flick in the forehead. Sounds like you need a good thump in it. All that forehead, but no brain inside there, sir. I saw that. Somebody says, why no brain in his forehead? Well, probably because I can't say that there was much in there to start with, but this is also a person that I can tell you for fact has also had so many overdoses that their brain is mush. What was left of it before all the drugs and stuff like that, just from the drug use alone, will make your brain mushy over time, put holes in it or what have you. But when you have overdoses, especially when you are dead for more than, I think it's the first couple of minutes, like 4 minutes-ish, give or take. Hold on, let me feed the cats really quickly. And then I'll check these numbers. But I think it's maybe 4 minutes or so. I'll have to double check on that, give or take, that you have before you start, it might be less than that actually, getting permanent brain damage. Before you start suffering brain damage from oxygen deprivation. But this person is such a bad addict. Somebody says, on what? Anything they can get their hands on. Their favorite usually is heroin, possibly cocaine, but they've, smoked crack and all kinds of other things. They do pills, they drink, and anything that they can get their hands on. But this is a person who will also go from, such a highly addictive person, go from a beer, right? They'll suddenly go grab a beer, and then they'll go from a beer, even if they were claiming they were sober, they'll relapse on a beer. Not that they were sober for long, maybe a couple days, if that. Usually not by choice. They don't have money or something. And so they'll go get a beer, and then they'll go from the beer to a needle full of heroin in an hour. It's that extreme. Like, they start drinking, and then the second they start drinking, that addictive pattern goes, and they go from a single beer to a needle full of heroin in an hour, in less than an hour. True story, bro. Needs no dragons and shit. So there's that. Okay. And then when you are unconscious and you stop breathing for over 10 minutes, which is what this person has done multiple times, yeah, that's severe permanent brain damage. This dude's brain was twacked a long time ago, and all the overdoses subsequent to that did not help his case. 933. It's why he thought that stalking was a good idea. It's why he thought that lying to judges was a good idea. It's why he thought terrorizing women and children, divine feminine and her children, i.e. myself and my daughter, for example, was a good idea. It wasn't. Twacked! No righteous or logical person with a sound mind would ever even fathom doing such a thing. But this nincompoop did. Yeah, I heard that. He did. Okay, Muppet. When I say, this is the same one from the other day, when I say something really truthful and honest, right? Especially when he thinks he's going to get sassy, because he tried, and combat what I'm saying, and then I shut it down with a really hard truth bomb like I just did. I didn't even give him the chance. I didn't even tell you he started trying to nitpick on what I was saying. That karmic male energy that comes up, either trying to do the tough guy act or delusional because he really thinks he's in the right, or he's scared because he knows he's not, and is trying to do the projection, the reverse psychology thing. Like, he's so insecure that I'm speaking the truth confidently that he thinks if he tries to play the tough guy and like combat what I'm saying, that it will make me believe what he's saying. I will believe the gaslighting. I will be insecure in what I'm saying. And then I guess he can flip the script, right? So if he tries to make me insecure with gaslighting, then he thinks that he can make himself feel secure. No, because I know he's delusional and I'm speaking fact. So that will never happen. But yeah, he still tried it. This is that one. Yeah, Divine Masculine says, oh, he's trying that again, is he? Yeah, well, he just did the Muppet thing. And when I clap back, he tries to interrupt with something rude. I'll clap back with the truth and shut him down from trying to interrupt me with gaslighting. And he crosses his arms like a petulant, tantruming child and goes, I can't even do it the second time. And I couldn't do it yesterday. The first time I do it, each time it's like I'm hearing what he's saying, and so I can mimic it really closely. But then when I try to mimic me mimicking him, it's not quite it's not quite the same as the first one. But he did. He sounded like one of those grumbling Muppets. I wish I could remember which one it is. If you know, you know. I think I found them. Starter and Waldorf are the grumbling Muppet characters known for their negative commentary and heckling. Yes, this is heckling the rest of the Muppets from their balcony seats. Okay, so this is what this dude is being compared to. Their antics are, yeah, see, are often humorous. Well, I'm over here laughing at him, so yeah. As they constantly find fault with whatever is happening on stage, I have tears in my eyeballs. I'm laughing so hard right now. Let's see if I can find this, because I don't think I can do it justice. Certainly not the second time. No, meaning yesterday, the first time I was mimicking this, it sounded accurate, right? But then I did it twice in a row, and the second time I did it, it wasn't the same. The same thing just happened. I heard him doing and saying what he was saying, so I mimicked him. The grumbling thing, started laughing, and then when I went to speak it a second time, it didn't come out the same. But I wasn't mimicking him the second time. I was mimicking me mimicking him, and it wasn't quite the same. So let me pull this up. Divine Masculine says, this is funny. I thought so.
I warned him. What? Wake me when the show starts.
It's only been on a while.
Wake me when it's over.
He's actually gone. Will we ever forget him? Who? You know, what's his name?
That was a great number. I don't care what you say.
I thought it was dumb.
But you're right.
But too kindly, old gentleman. Can I hide here?
Hey, Alan, here's one you missed.
Look, see, they target little bunny rabbits. That's why he's trying to target women and children. Hello. No sweaty little bunny today, but I will kick you in the face. Choo! Like a ninja. Just kidding. But don't try me. Or catch me off guard, because it might knock your teeth out. I wouldn't recommend it. 1522. That didn't even do it justice. I swear there's this part in it where, yeah, look, there they are. They're crossing their arms. This is what I'm seeing. He crosses his arms. He's all cranky and he's like grumbling. And it's not even really words. It's just like bah, humbug kind of an energy. And it kind of comes out of his mouth that way. Like he's so shocked. Look at this. This is what he's doing. This is hilarious. He's so cranky. And I still can't, I haven't been able to do it the same since the first time I said it today or the first time I said it yesterday, because it came out in the reading yesterday too. It's the same dude. It's the same karmic male coming up. Sarcastic and grumpy demeanor. Despite their constant complaining, they regularly return to their box seats for the following show. Like they complain, but then they keep coming back to stock. Even if they don't understand why. Well, I do. It's called mental illness and drug addiction. Okay. They constantly criticize the show's acts and performers. They're just jealous because they're not artists. They're just overgrown critics. Overbearing at that. See if I can find. I know there must be a clip of them grumbling this way, because I was seeing that, but I keep hearing this one bit too. Very curious now. I won't spend too much time looking, but let's check. They're so cranky. I don't know if this will show it.
The internet is a completely different culture, isn't it?
You said it. Everything here is immediately followed by sarcastic comments and nasty responses.
Yep. We're finally where we belong.
Okay. No, that wasn't it either. But there's something. It's like it's worse. They're speaking more clearly in this. This was just a petulant. It's like he didn't even have anything to say. He started to heckle, and I shut it down, and it shocked him so much. The heckling, before he could even get it out, it turned into a grumble. Like he was just so shocked. He kind of stepped back and crossed his arms and blah, blah, blah. Like it didn't even know what to say. It came out in a jumble because it was jargon, grumbles. He was just shocked and upset. 1922, and I still can't do it like I did it the first time. Not today or yesterday. Yeah. Is this one the Swedish Chef? I know there's a Muppet that's also, like, he doesn't really speak. He just talks jargon. Here it is. It's like this. It's like a cross between those old dudes and this one. Wait. It's kind of like what it was. A cross between the old hecklers with their arms crossed and then this guy who's just speaking like jargon. Right, Divine Masculine says that is hilarious. I'm trying to tell you. I still don't think I did it justice, but goodness gracious. It's funny. So there's that. I heard that. Thanks for that. Oh, you're welcome. For the giggles or for the clarity and explanation? I heard both. Yeah, you're welcome. Anyway, let's check on this energy, shall we? Really quickly. Yeah, making bad choices, right? And so they thought that stalking and harassing and then heckling and causing problems for people was a good idea. No, it wasn't. It's because they're blocked. They're feeling a lack of security, or they're trying to mess with other people's security, possibly money. They may have been doing this for money too. And this is a narcissist or a sociopath, a narcissistic sociopath or narcissistic psychopath. To be very clear, all sociopaths are also narcissists, for starters, but not every narcissist is a sociopath. It goes narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, and it goes up the scale of severity. Narcissist, sociopath, psychopath. Psychopaths tend to be worse. I'll explain briefly in a minute. Sociopaths are typically worse than narcissists, at least just narcissists alone. As bad as they are, sociopaths are worse. They have all the traits of a narcissist, but then they have worse ones that typically regular narcissists don't. Sociopaths also, narcs do this too, but sociopaths tend to, let's move on to psychopaths versus sociopaths, rather. Sociopaths tend to click up in groups, so all the toxicities of a narcissist they embody, but then they also up the ante in ways that they even don't often. And they're more toxic, violent, aggressive, malicious. They're nastier than a regular narc. But unlike a psychopath, they tend to need lots of people around them, toxic people like them, yes men, henchmen, enablers, to help them do their nasty deeds, to help them get away with their crimes, to help them cover things up, etc. But a psychopath, I hear that is worse than a narcissist. Yeah, it's worse than a narcissist by itself, for sure. They do embody all the traits of a narc and then some just worse. Yeah, it's worse. It's worse. But then a psychopath tends to be worse than that. They tend to run alone. Ted Bundy was said to be a psychopath to this degree. This is also why he was able to get away with it for so long. He had a wife and I believe kids, and they claim they never suspected anything, but this is the thing about psychopaths, is they will... I wonder if Jeffrey Dahmer would classify as this too. They will wait. If they are in a spot where they're more likely to be caught, they will have some kind of self-control that they place over themselves to put their tactics on hold while they're under the heat or to avoid it, right? So they tend to work alone, meaning they don't use people to help them cover up their stuff, nor do they need to if they don't have so-called teammates around them that might be potential witnesses to flip on them, etc. Like the Blue Falcons and the flying monkeys that these narcs try to use against us usually flip on them too, eventually in the end. Yeah, see, it backfired. But the psychopaths, they tend to run alone. So they don't really have anybody around them to help them with their crimes, to get away with them, but they don't really have anybody to tell on them either. Bundy was a weird case too. Like, he even worked on a call center, right? They suspected him for a little bit, the police, but because he had no prior criminal record, and because he also was working on a police call center, like a 911 or some kind of emergency call center somewhere, they let him go. But the thing about that is that job he was using, where he was getting calls or, getting people call with information on crimes and stuff, he was answering those calls. So he was able to keep track of whether or not people were suspecting him through his job. And again, because he hadn't been caught yet, or to that degree, he had no criminal record that they were looking for, for a criminal profile, they let him go. They let him go because they didn't think he was the killer after they suspected him of being the killer, but then had to go back and get him because they had the killer in front of them the whole time. His wife claims she never knew anything. And that sounds questionable on levels, but when you understand that a psychopath will do that, right? They'll have whole families and wives and kids, but they'll be going out targeting people and stuff on the side. But they'll do it in times that they have alone. They'll make whole separate lives, like they're living double lives. But they leave the wife and the kids and the family at home to go live their little solo life to commit their crimes. So it's not entirely implausible. Some people have a level of disbelief in her statement that she didn't know, but that, it is possible. Especially when you understand the psychology of a psychopath. And how they don't want people to know, and they try to create that separate life that they can get away with their crimes. Is Ted, what's with the profile? I want to know Ted Bundy's psych profile. Psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellianism. Well, there you go. Okay? I would say he's a psychopath, according to this. There are some people questioning this. Lots of little articles saying, I don't think he was a psychopath. I think he was a sociopath. He may have been a malignant narcissist, but all of these are just like Quora. These are just random people saying this, that they think. There it is. See, look, even the American Psychological Association says that he's a psychopath. According to this article. And then there's another psych article at the top from a psychiatrist, and they also are saying he's a psychopath. So I would be more inclined to listen to the multiple psychology articles from professional psychologists that are both saying, like I did observe, he seems more like a psychopath to me on levels because of that specific fact than a sociopath. And the only people in these articles I'm skimming over saying that they think he's a sociopath rather than a psychopath, remember, being worse. Those are not professionals. Those are just what some might call netizens, like internet citizens. Yeah, it's just netizens putting in their 2 cents, but they don't actually have any professional background. Any of the professional articles I just pulled up all say the same thing, which is psychopathy for Bundy. I'm curious though, what was Dahmer? Because Dahmer, he went out in social settings to find victims, which a lot of them do. And even antisocial personality disordered people, otherwise known as narcissists, it might be called antisocial personality, but it's not that they just want to shell up in their house all day and not see anybody. They crave attention. They seek attention. They want targets to interact with and target. And so it's not that they're antisocial in regards to the fact that they don't ever want to see people or deal with people, or they just stay in the house all the time. They're antisocial because they're not good for people. Right? It is quite antisocial behavior. Like social behavior would be being kind to people, interacting with people, right? Positive social interactions. If you're antisocial, it doesn't necessarily mean you hide away from everybody, but you're not nice to humans either. It's not a very social thing to be abusive, but that's what they're doing. They're seeking out attention and targeting other people to be abusive, which is not very social. It's not good social cues. It's antisocial behavior. So that's why it's called that. Don't be confused. They're not all alone. They just treat people poorly. It's what makes them antisocial. Being crappy to people is not social kindness. It's not social at all. He was diagnosed as a psychopath, like I said. He also, this is why I was wondering on both of these accords. I'm pretty sure Bundy and Dahmer were both psychopaths versus sociopaths or narcissists alone. This is what I said, and I just checked both articles. They're both accurate. And they are indeed both psychopaths, which is what I said. And the reason I said that is because both of them either went away from their family. Like Bundy would leave his family to go do his thing and kill people, have a whole murder garden, and his wife didn't know about it. He was living a double life, right? He had this appearance of a happy family life on one hand, but then he would go and leave so he could go off alone and target women by himself. That, darling, that is psychopathy. The whole thing where they go off alone, and then the addition of the double life too, but really the bit where they go off alone to do this, that's the psychopathy part. But the other piece is how they can stop that. They can put that on a freeze. If they know they're being watched or they're in jeopardy of being caught, they will stop the crimes and then pick them back up when they feel like it's safe to do so again. That's why sometimes in certain more rare cases, you see big gaps, like decades sometimes, between serial killings before they start, and then criminologists have to figure out, is it a copycat killer or is this just the original uncaught killer who's back at it again? For whatever reason, they picked it back up again. And so Dahmer was the same. He actually was doing this in his parents' house, but they moved out and he was living there alone. And that's when he started doing this, when he had the house alone. But there was a time where their parents, I think they came back or they were in the house. There was something that happened where he wasn't alone. He would have been caught if he continued his crimes, so he didn't. And for, I think, almost a decade or something, for like almost, how long did Dahmer stop? Maybe like 10 years or something. He stopped. But it's because he didn't have a safe place to do his murders. His parents were in the house and he needed an empty house to do it. So he stopped for, I think, almost a decade. And that, between the going off alone to do those things and then the being able to stop because they know they'll be caught, whereas a psychopath would often be more impulsive and try to do their dirt, even if they're trying to be a little bit more careful, they still just are so compulsive they can't seem to stop the same way. That's the stalking and all that stuff too, even. Yeah, that's more sociopathy or even narcissism. But the bit where they can control themselves enough to stop when they know they'll be caught, and the cognizance about that, and then also the specifically going off alone and not needing anybody to help them with their crimes, help enable them in their crimes, help them get away with their crimes or cover them up. Yeah, that's also psychopathy. It's different. It says he was on a 13-year reign of terror. No, he stopped for a while. I know this. I know he did because I saw like an interview or something years ago, a true crime interview with him, and he explained, I think, why he stopped, and it was because his parents were in the house, or there was they were witnesses. He couldn't do it with witnesses around. Here's a timeline. Let's see if I can get a quick timeline. No. Yeah, 9 years later. Okay, so there it is. In 1981, Dahmer returns to Ohio following a military discharge. He was arrested for drunken disorderly conduct. August 1986, he's charged with disorderly conduct. September 1987, he kills his next victim 9 years after his first. So it was almost a decade. He stopped his killing spree for almost 10 years because he was living with his parents and he didn't have a solitary space to do it. And this is what makes the psychopath versus the sociopath, is he had the self-control to stop for 10 years because he couldn't be alone to do it. That's the psychopathy bit. Those two factors are huge indicators, typically speaking, that it is psychopathy versus sociopathy or narcissism alone. Remembering again that every psychopath and sociopath is a narcissist, but not every narc is a sociopath or a psychopath. They're different. But it's like they go through the stages. There's narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy. And so the psychopaths also do embody a lot of the traits that the sociopaths do, but they embody ones that the psychopaths don't. It's what sets them apart as well. But you start with a narcissism, and then it's like they pass through the narcissism into sociopathy, but they've got both of them, the sociopaths. And then the psychopaths have a similar spill down, but again, they're at the top, and so they've got even worse traits, or slightly different traits that even these ones don't. It's a whole thing. Like a tier system. Like with trauma, you've got regular PTSD, complex PTSD, which is tier 2, and then DID, or dissociative identity disorder, which is tier 3. But then with narcissism and the lot, you have narcissism, sociopathy, and then psychopathy. 1, 2, 3. Narcissism 1, which is bad enough. Sociopathy as 2, which is again worse, and then psychopathy as 3, which is worse than that, typically speaking. Also, what makes them worse is they tend to be more malicious. They tend to be more cruel. They tend to be more violent, but they're also, again, sneakier and more malicious about their crimes. And that's pretty gross. So the sociopaths tend to just have less self-control and more exposure. Yep. Especially when you drag more people into it. So then September 87, it was 10 years later. And then October 1987, he lures in another victim. And then March 1988, he meets the next and I think last victim, right? No, this wasn't the last one. He meets the next victim outside of a bar. And then 1988, he's arrested for SA. He actually assaulted a 13-year-old boy. And you know what? He had actually tried to target another boy, I think, before that. And they were brothers. The last two ones I mentioned, I don't know if he knew that when he was targeting them, but he ended up happening to try to target, must have been in the same neighborhood or something, but 2 separate boys, and they happened to be brothers. And I don't believe that he knew that when he was targeting them individually, but because they were at separate time periods, he targeted one boy, and then he targeted another boy later, and those boys were brothers, and I don't believe that he knew that. It just played out that way. It was gross. Yep, and so this is when, in 1989, that's when he started to keep trophies. In March 1989. May 1989, he was finally sentenced. But only to 12 months in jail with a work release. And that was for this, oh God, he only got a year on probation. What was it? No, 12 months and 5 years of probation for the sexual assault. But then in May 1990, he started killing again. June 1990, he does again, and then tries to like preserve the body. 1990, September, he claimed 2 more victims, but he started experimenting with his tactics. He deviated from previous methods. And then in February 1991, that was the year before I was born, a 10th victim is murdered. And then, you know what's funny is actually that's the same year that the grumbler, the narcissistic karmic, was born, 91. April 91, actually. So in April of 1991, Dahmer attempts to put a victim in a zombie-like state. So basically the whole thing with the gaslighting and the attempts to control. In fact, you know, the person who's been after my daughter and I reminds me a whole lot of Dahmer in a lot of ways, alarmingly so, and even kind of looks like him. And you know what? When my late husband was living in Ohio, because that's where he was going to school, and that's also where his dad was located. That's where his dad's family was, and where he bought a house there. This Dahmer-like creature followed him to Ohio and was trying to live off of my twin before I met either of them, actually. Unfortunately, I met the Dahmer-like creature first. But I heard that story. Oh, and you know what? He was told that if he was going to go to Ohio to, you know, bring some monies so he could, you know, get there and, you know, pay rent and then get a job and stuff. And he didn't. He lived there for months. And my twin ended up paying for him, paying for his rent in a house full of people, paying for his food because he had nothing and didn't want to go work or do anything. He was just bumming off of my twin before I met either of them, my late husband, when he was still alive. And I said, no, thank you. And eventually, Del Rey said, look, dude, I can't do this. I'm in school. I'm trying to, you know, take care of my home environment, and I have enough responsibilities than to take care of you. You're an adult. You need to be pulling your own weight. And because he's not, he's a petulant child in a so-called grown man's body, he didn't. So what he actually had to do was call his mommy and daddy to buy him a bus ticket to ship him back to Maine from Ohio, because my counterpart did not want to, and frankly should not have been responsible for paying his way as 2 grown men. And then May 1991, he narrowly escaped capture. June 91, he lured another victim in. Wow, pretending to be a photographer. So sad. Saying it was for a photo shoot. And then in July, 3 more are targeted and taken out. And then July 22nd, so July 7th through 19th, he took out 3. So in like 2 weeks, he killed 3. And then July 22nd, so a 4th one, oh no, this was not a 4th one. In July 22nd, 91, his killing spree comes to an end. And this is when it happened. He tried to target another one. So he didn't kill another one after those last 3, but he tried. And so he lured this guy in. I think it was another bar incident, right? Thought he was going to get this guy to come hang out with him or sleep with him or something, because Dahmer was either gay or in the closet or something. And so he tried to target this man. He had handcuffs on him, or he started to handcuff this dude, but the victim told the police officers that the freak, in other words, Dahmer, had placed the handcuffs on him and had spent the better part of the evening trying to escape from a nearby apartment where he was being held captive. So Dahmer tried to lock him up to target him. He escaped. This is the one victim that escaped, and this is when his reign of terror came to an end. 45-22. And the thing about that is, when the police kicked in his door, right, Dahmer was asked, like, when did you realize that you were doing something you shouldn't have been doing? And he said, no joke, well, when the police kicked in my door, give or take a few words, like, it took the police booting in your front door to come arrest you for being a murderer to explain to you and convince you that maybe you shouldn't have been murdering people, how delusional are you? Not delusional, just entitled psychopathy. But anyway. And you know what? The divine masculines ask him the same question. You legitimately didn't seem to care or realize that targeting a woman and child, filing financial fraud, trying to ruin their life and drive them into the ground, knowing full well that you were leaving a paper trail while you did it, was a bad idea. You genuinely thought that that was a good idea? He's asking in the same tone that I just referenced the Dahmer stuff. So in this case, divine masculines also seeing the parallels between this psycho who's been after my child and I and Jeffrey Dahmer. And again, they look alike too. It's quite creepy, but there you go. Anyway, I've got bigger fish to fry right now. Better things to be doing. I'm dealing with this a-hole, but yeah, see, look, I'm about to go run through the shower. I've got better things to be doing than dealing with these karmic a-holes. Yeah, who just don't like women because they're like in the closet or they wish they could be them or something. Yeah, see? Jealous. They envy you for following your own path, having your own stuff, and they make bad choices. They also may have been targeting victims for money. In fact, I know that they were. Yep. Anything else? No, I'm going to leave it right there, except for this card got stuck. Wow. I didn't realize that this got... So you need to stop that. It's not a toy. Sit down. Come. I know. It looks so fun, but that's not a toy. That's a cord. You want to play? You can play, but not with that. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. You want to play? Ow, that's my toe. You got it. Yeah, I gotta give it back. Little monkey. Yeah. You silly boy. You got it. Okay, so spying on your social media. This got stuck in the drawer. I thought I pulled all the cards out, but that one's stuck to the bottom. So we know that, right? They come on, they stalk, and they try to retaliate, and that's been their pattern anyway. I hear Last Fight by Velvet Revolver. They're done, though. I hear Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I would say that this is somebody, yeah, we already talked about that deals with drug addiction. And to be very clear, I have a lot of empathy for those that struggle with addiction. That's not the part I have issues with. The part I have issues with is when you have abusive people who try to brush their abusive tendencies off on the fact that they're addicted to something. Like, oh, I'm only being abusive because I'm an addict. No, you stop that. Because I have met people that are struggling with addiction before. And while it certainly doesn't often allow them to be their very best version of themselves, and it can bring out the worst in them is not even close to the toxicity in an abusive person. So what that is you've got an abusive person trying to blame their abusive tendencies on drug addiction, which is stigmatic. It's not kind to people who are not abusive that also struggle with addiction, because then you've got abusive people blaming the abuse on addictions, and then everybody looking at anybody struggling with addiction as abusive or a potential abuser. And those are not the same things. Many people who are in a state of addiction, again, it doesn't bring the best out of them. But even at their worst of worst, they're still not as bad as an abuser. And those same people who are trying to blame the abuse on addictions, in fact, I've dealt with an abuser who's done this, so no. And then I've come across even a divine masculine who struggled from prior history with addiction. At this divine masculine's worst of worst, he was not like the karmic. He was not even close to as bad as the karmic at all. But even when the karmic was sober, oh, he was still bad. The drugs and alcohol did not make the karmic less abusive or more abusive. It's just that they have a harder time holding up that fake nice guy, nice girl mask. You see? But similarly speaking, when you're drunk or under the influence, you can, as long as you're an able-bodied person, you can still walk, just not in a straight line. Yeah? It's the same. It is the same with the mask of abuse. It's not the drugs that's making them abusive. The drugs might make them give less of a fuck of pretending like they're not abusive, but it's not the drugs that make them abusive. If it was the drugs that make them abusive, then anybody who did drugs would be abusive, but they're not. Like the people that I met that were not abusive, but that had struggled with addiction, they were typically more busy hurting themselves, which is also why they were using to numb some kind of pain, emotionally or otherwise, to bother hurting other people. In fact, they would dip out and leave to go use and hurt themselves to avoid hurting other people. Sometimes there's a middle ground line. Of course, like I said, addiction, even in the best of person, will bring out the worst of them. But even at their worst of worst, they're not bad, not evil, not violent, not malicious like these karmics. And the karmics are like that whether they're sober or not. It's just that when they're not sober, it's harder for them to pretend. It's harder for them to walk in a straight line. In other words, wear that nice guy mask. 909. I think I'm going to cap it right there. I do have some other things to do and go take care of. But I'll be back eventually. In the meantime, take good care of yourselves. Remember to hydrate. I'm going to go take a nice shower and do some yoga. And I will catch you on the next one. Blessings. Namaste.